students and 9 variables. The first one is casa, and we have 4 casas. First, the Gryffindor casa, the best one, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw. Variable are nine type of subjects. The first one is transformaciones, pociones, herbología, adivinación, encantamientos, defensas de las artes oscuras, and historia. And the last variable is the total average grade of all these variables. We can find 24 students, in Hufflepuff 21, in Ravenclaw 32, and in Slytherin 23.
Hello, I'm going to talk about the goodness of fit. For know the goodness of fit, we need to know 2 types of tests. The first one is the chi-square, that the chi-square is a test that measures how expectation compared to the actual observed data, and the Kolmogorov test is an hypothesis test that procedure for determining if 2 samples of data are from the same distribution. And now we are going to do an example, which we are going to use the MyStat. We enter the MyStat, we use the analyze. In the analyze, we use the fighting distribution. We select continuous, and we are going now to select the factor, that is one variable. Doing this example, we are going to know if this example follow a normal distribution or not. Now,
in conclusion,
in this case, we obtain that the p-value is smaller than the alpha, so we can say that we can reject the null hypothesis and doesn't follow a normal distribution. And we can do that seeing the chart.
So now we are going to study an hypothesis testing problem with one population based on the mean. So our problem is that in the Ravenclaw house there are 32 students living, and the students discuss that the average grade of the class is 8. However, the teacher, Pomona Sprout, says that the average grade is lower than 8 with a confidence level of 95%. So the problem is who's right. So in this problem, the null hypothesis would be that the average is equal to 8, and the alternative hypothesis would be that the average is lower than 8. So after we did the calculation on MyStat, and we obtained that we reject the null hypothesis. So there is a high probability that the average grade is equal to 8.
now we are going to study a hypothesis testing one population problem. Indeed, we are going to study a proportion problem. Therefore, it says that Sybil Trelawney, the teacher of Adivinación, thinks that the student from Hufflepuff obtained an average below 5. She's worried because if the average grade is below 5, the house of Hufflepuff will lose points. Sybil estimates that the proportion of students that have obtained less than 5 is 60%. In this case, the null hypothesis will be the proportion of students that have obtained a less than a 5. The alternative hypothesis will be the proportion of students that have got a grade equal or higher than 5. In this case, the proportion value is inside. After analyzing the problem in MyStat, we have get the result that the proportion value is inside the interval. Therefore, we cannot reject the null hypothesis, as we know with a confidence of a 95% that the proportion of 60% is right. Therefore, Sybil, the professor, was right. So Hufflepuff will not get that point.
Okay, so in this case, we are going to take an hypothesis testing of 2 populations, specifically an independent problem. In this problem, we assume that Snape, the professor of pociones, did a surprise exam with 20 questions for the house of Gryffindor and Slytherin. Snape, who is always trying to help Draco Malfoy, thinks that Slytherin has better marks than Gryffindor. If the grades are normally distributed, is Snape right? So the 2 houses are independent because have different samples. The variance of the first sample, Gryffindor, is 1.151990, and the variance of the second sample listening is 1.4207. So we conclude that T is inside the interval. So we cannot reject H0. Professor Snape is right about the mark of the
Analyze dependent exercise. I'm going to read the sample. A study is developed to know what relation exists in between the grades and the and the time study of the student of Gryffindor. In Gryffindor, there are 24 students of the class, and they did 2 exams. For the first exam of Encantamientos, which is a surprise test. So the study didn't study at all. Secondly, they did a partial exam of history, and they started in study 2 weeks before the exam. The test tests the null hypothesis that the average of the history exam is higher than the average grade of the Encantamientos, against the alternative that the difference is fair.
Okay, Marta, so to test your hypothesis, first we have to calculate the t-value. And we get that the t-value is minus 3.16. As we can see in the interval, it goes between minus 1.71 till infinite. So we can reject the null hypothesis as the t-value is not inside this interval. So we cannot assume that the grades are going to be better when studying than when we are not studying.
So, as conclusion, we have completed all the objectives that were expected on this work. In this case, we have learned a lot and we have applied all the knowledge that we have learned in class.
I enjoy a lot this work because we are working as a team, and it's a good experience for future works that
It's
we are going to do.
an important tool to know how to use MyStat, and it's really good for the statistics.
1, 2, 3, Hogwarts!
Eso.